Everything from the smallest subatomic particle to the entire galaxy is evolving. While everything apparently dies or disappears in time, the truth is that it all just gets reconfigured in evolving forms. Remember that energy can't be destroyed, it can only be refigured. So the same stuff is continuously falling apart and coalescing in different forms. The force behind that is evolution. Morning, everybody, and hope you are all well. I am very excited and I'm looking forward to doing some more reading of Principles by Dalio. I've been getting some really amazing feedback on it. And we've had some very, very interesting discussions since we started. So we have been reading Look to Nature to Learn How Reality Works. And we were having a look at what is good and what is not good. And so we are up to the next point. Let's start reading so that we can feel inspired and have something to maybe learn and implement into our lives, which is something that I've done a lot yesterday. I learned a lot, I achieved a lot, and hopefully you did as well. So let's continue. Evolution is the single greatest force in the universe. It is the only thing that is permanent and it drives everything. Okay. Everything from the smallest subatomic particle to the entire galaxy is evolving. While everything apparently dies or disappears in time, the truth is that it all just gets reconfigured in evolving forms. Remember that energy can't be destroyed, it can only be refigured. So the same stuff is continuously falling apart and coalescing in different forms. The force behind that is evolution. For example, the primary purpose of every living thing is to act as a vessel for the DNA that evolves life through time. The DNA that exists within each individual came from an eternity ago and will continue to live long after its individual carriers pass away in increasingly evolved forms. As I thought about evolution, I realized that it exists in other forms than life, and it is carried out through other transmission mechanisms than DNA. Technologies, languages, and everything else evolves. Knowledge, for example, is like DNA, in that it is passed from generation to generation and evolves. Its impact on people over many generations can be as great or greater than that of the genetic code. Evolution is good because it is a process of adaptation that generally moves things towards improvement. All things, such as products, organizations, and human capabilities, evolve through time in a similar way. It is simply the process by which things either adapt and improve or die. To me, this evolutionary process looks like what you see on the right. And what he has drawn is this little spiral kind of thing. Okay. Very quickly on evolution, it's very interesting because I also observe evolution in culture and society. And if you have a look at how people used to think and what people used to do, and especially business principles, I find it very interesting in business principles. So many years ago, there was a management technique and people used to use that management technique and it used to work. And then they discovered and created a new management technique. And then the old one now seems so archaic and so incorrect and so wrong. And yet it worked at that time because that was the context around which it was built. And now it wouldn't work. And people would see through it, people would understand it, it wouldn't make sense. And so everything has to evolve. And I think it's really an interesting thing. We can't just build something and expect it to work forever. We need to build something and we need to see how we can improve it. We need to think about what we can do to make it better. We need to see how we can change it, how people want it to be. And we need to make those adjustments as time goes on. Evolution consists of adaptations, inventions that provide spurts of benefits that decline in value. That painful decline leads either to a new adaptation and new inventions that bring new products, organizations, and human capabilities to new and higher levels of development, as shown in the top diagram on the facing page, or decline and death, which look like the diagram at the bottom left. And we've got one going up, one going down. See if I can get the picture on the zoom. One's a spiral up and the other is a spiral down. The bigger can see it very, very easily. And And for some reason, there we go. And that's how we get it to work on the Zoom. Think of any product, organization, or person you know, and you will see that this is true. The world is littered with once great things that deteriorated and failed. Only a rare few have kept reinventing themselves to go on to new heights of greatness. One really good place to see that is musical artists. If you have a look, for example, at artists who have been successful throughout every decade, people like Elton John, Madonna, and a couple of others, they kept reinventing themselves. They kept collaborating with people that were popular and exciting and new. And that's how they've been able to innovate and stay relevant. And that is what a business needs to do as well. And also what we need to do with our investing. We need to keep looking at what kinds of things are working. What are other people doing? Who can I collaborate with? Etc., etc. All machines eventually break down, decompose, and have their parts recycled or create new machines. This includes us. Sometimes this makes us sad because we become attached to our machines. But if you look at it from the higher level, it's really beautiful to observe how the machines of evolution works. From this perspective, we can see that perfection doesn't exist. It is a goal that fuels a never-ending process of adaptation. If nature or anything were perfect, it wouldn't be evolving. Organisms, organizations, and individual people are always highly imperfect, but capable of improving. So rather than getting stuck hiding our mistakes and pretending we're perfect, it makes sense to find our imperfections and deal with them. You will either learn valuable lessons from your mistakes and press on, better equipped to succeed, or you won't and you will fail. As the saying goes, evolve or die, part D. This evolutionary cycle is not just for people, but for countries, companies, economies, for everything. And it is naturally self-correcting as a whole, though not necessarily for its parts. Because we might disagree with the government, for example, on an individual level. And we say, oh, I don't like what the government is doing right now. It's not good for me. But there are other people who are watching what the government is doing and saying, oh, this is brilliant. I'm so glad that they are doing this. And this is very apparent, like, for example, in Australia at the moment, where we have an election, in France, where they're having an election, a couple of different places where this is happening. And there are going to be people who say, oh, I really hope the government will change. I really don't like the way things are going. And they cannot understand when other people are sitting there saying, oh, things are so good. I hope we keep the government that we have. Things are so wonderful. So everything just evolves into whatever it needs to become. And we all have a different perspective on it. It's really, really interesting. So it's self-correcting as a whole, not just for the individuals, yes. For example, if there is too much supply and waste in the market, prices will go down, companies will go out of business, and capacity will be reduced until the supply falls in line with the demand, at which time the cycle will start to move in the opposite direction. Similarly, if an economy turns bad enough, those responsible for running it will make the political and policy changes that are needed, or they will not survive, making room for their replacements to come along. These cycles are continuous and play out in logical ways, and they tend to be self-reinforcing. The key is to fail, learn, and improve quickly. If you're constantly learning and improving, your evolutionary process will look like the one that's ascending. Do it poorly, and it will look like the one that you see on the left. And this one is a bit more of an arrow downwards. It goes up a little bit, and then it starts going down. So this is absolutely true. There are so many different things that are happening at the same time, but everything is looking for efficiency. Everything is looking for a way to improve. Everything is looking for the best innovation, the best way of doing things. Humans, economies, and it's going to be moving up and down in cycles. And this makes it easier for investors because we can follow those cycles, or we can look for the trends of those cycles. Or we can ignore that and just pretend that we are going to figure it out on our own and we don't need to worry about the cycles at all. But the main point being that everything is going to be looking at what is most efficient. And as we were talking about yesterday, I was talking about the fact that everything that happens, everything, literally everything, is looking for that efficiency. And so we need to figure out the psychology of how it all works. So if, as a politician, I am not going to say the things that people want to hear, then of course I'm not going to be voted in. Even if I disagree with what I am going to have to say in order to be able to get the votes, I need to either convince people, or I need to say what they want me to say in order to be able to get those votes. If I am, for example, going to start a business, I need to, again, follow what people want. If I don't create what people want, they will not buy it. So even if I disagree with it, I might need to create the marketing to make it look like it's what they want until they buy it, and then convince them that it's something else that they need. But we need to create something that is going to allow people to think that they're getting what they want. And as evolution changes things, people are going to want different things. So we're not going to be able to keep producing and giving people the same thing. Many years ago in the 1950s, people were happy with leaded paint, and they were happy with things that could be thrown away, and there was no recycling, and all of those different kinds of things. And so over time, it's evolved where people now want sustainable goods, and they want things that are going to be environmentally friendly and that run on electricity as opposed to petrol and those kinds of things. So we have to be aware of these things. And when it comes to investing, it's the same thing. So companies that are more sustainable might start trending upwards, whereas fossil fuel companies, their trend might be down. So the more we can understand these things, the more we can follow the cycles, the better that it will be. We'll read a little bit more and then I need to start going. 1.5, evolving is life's greatest accomplishment and its greatest reward. It is instinctually that way, which is why most of us feel the pull of it. In other words, we instinctively want to get better at things and have created and evolved technology to help us. History has shown us that all species will either go extinct or evolve into other species. Though with our limited time window, that is hard for us to see. But we do know that what we call mankind was simply the result of DNA evolving into a new form about 200,000 years ago. And even beyond that, it's not just that we are evolving DNA, but we are actually little microbes and little single-celled organisms that have decided to start working together. So some of our little cells have decided that they're going to be heart cells, and they are going to share the work burden. So some are going to become lungs, some are going to become ears, some are going to become a nose. And so they're going to take on these different functions. Literally, we are not humans. We are a group of microbes working together. We are a group of cells that have all decided that they're going to cooperate and work together. So human life and all other life has really come from this idea that there are going to be these little cells and they want to get better and better. So rather than just being these single little cells, they started accumulating and they started sharing roles, and it allowed them to become more complex organisms. So it's allowed them to talk and walk and swim and do all these amazing things. And it's only because they started cooperating. And over time, there is a theory that humans are forming communities, and that those communities are going to create a newer, higher life form. So maybe humans won't go extinct. We will actually create a newer, higher life form. And that's something that dinosaurs couldn't do, but humans might, because of what we are doing. But now we are going very, very science fiction. I personally believe there's a good chance man will begin to evolve at an accelerating pace with the help of man-made technologies that can analyze vast amounts of data and think faster and better than we can. I wonder how many centuries it will take for us to evolve into a higher level species that will be much closer to omniscience than we are now, if we don't destroy ourselves first. One of the great marvels of nature is how the whole system, which is full of individual organisms acting in their own self-interest and without understanding or guiding what's going on, can create a beautifully operating and evolving whole. While I'm not an expert at this, it seems that it's because evolution has produced A, incentives and interactions that lead to individuals pursuing their own interests and resulting in the advancements of the whole, B, the natural selection process, and C, rapid experimentation and adaptation. Okay, we will continue tomorrow with all the little dot points of this section, which is evolving is life's greatest accomplishment and its greatest reward. And we'll look at that in more detail in tomorrow's section. I hope you enjoyed today's reading. And if you would like to see me read from the start and hear my commentary from the start of this book, then you can do that by going to the YouTube channel. We have them all recorded and uploaded there. You can also find the other books that we read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We also have The Art of Thinking Clearly. And yes, you can find all of those at The Passive Cash Flow Club, which is our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe because we are also answering your questions, which is really, really exciting. So there might be questions that you have. Send them to me by Instagram. I'll give you the details on how to reach me there. And I'll turn that into a video, answer your questions, and upload it up to the YouTube channel. And so make sure you subscribe because it could be a question that is relevant to you. Even if it's not your question, somebody might have asked a question that is very relevant to you that will help you on your journey. And you'll know about it when you subscribe. So how can you get those questions to me? You can do that by going to Instagram and sending me a message at business_team_6_official. You'll be able to get in touch with me personally, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have. If you're interested in our cash flow simulator, which we ran a couple of days ago and had some really amazing people who learned some really wonderful things. They've been able to learn about business, about real estate, about the stock market, and do it in a safe environment where there's no chance of them losing any money because it's all paper money. It's a little bit like Monopoly on steroids. If that's something that interests you as well, let me know because it is a great way. And we've had some really amazing people who started at a very basic level and have been able to take it into real life and do some real life things and start creating the life of their dreams. Completely different lifestyle, completely different way of doing things. Excuse me. And they've been able to achieve their financial goals. So if that's something that interests you, let me know as well on the Instagram. For those of you who are on Bigo, you can also send me a message on Bigo, but my Bigo is very spammy, so it's very difficult for me to find who is real, who's actually really watched the live streams, and who hasn't. So I'll get back to you in just a moment and let you know how you can also get in touch with me so that you can ask your questions, so you can come and join us for cash flow. And of course, you can always go to the YouTube channel to watch the rest of the videos. So thank you so much for joining. It's been a great pleasure. I'm looking forward to reading again for you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Sydney time. Really appreciate you being here. And as I always say, it is important to make sure that you do things slightly differently. Whatever has gotten you to this point is only going to get you to this point. So if you want to have a different outcome, if you want to achieve something more in your financial life, then make sure to make the switch to unlock your rich.